Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 401 of the podcast. And on this episode, I'm previewing the upcoming Super Bowl matchup between the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. A good place to start is just how surprising this matchup is to see. These teams play the biggest game of the year, and it's not the Chiefs and Eagles. Last year, both of these teams missed the playoffs completely. The Seahawks just barely with winning 10 games, and the Patriots were truly awful, winning 4 games. Sports fans usually like to see one surprise team, but this is a Super Bowl matchup with 2. That's a real rarity. That's why I feel like none of these teams are right now the prohibitive favorites. Yes, there are people making the case that the Seahawks are going to be the winners, but then there are people saying that the New England Patriots are going to be the ones who come out on top. Let's get into the quarterbacks. In some ways, Drake May being an MVP candidate this season is a surprise, but the second-year jump for first-round picks is a real thing. Joe Burrow led the Bengals to a Super Bowl appearance. Big Ben won the Super Bowl in his sophomore season. These are the stats May had this year, throwing 31 touchdowns and a league-leading completion percentage of 72%. Historically, the Patriots are a perfect example of how simple the sport of football can be. If you have a franchise-level quarterback, you are going to compete at the highest level. That's why the Patriots became a dynasty, because they had Tom Brady, and now they're back in the Super Bowl because they have Drake May. I don't know if Drake May is going to have that same level of success. I don't know if he's going to create his own dynastic run with the team, but his great season is why the Patriots are where they are. And it has to be said that the franchise did everything to support this player his second season, unlike what they did with Mac Jones. They brought in offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. They gave Drake May a number 1 wide receiver in Stephon Diggs, and the proof is in the pudding. They are in the Super Bowl because of those moves, because they knew that the only way they were going to be as good as they are right now is if Drake May becomes their best player. On the other side of things, you have Sam Darnold, who was viewed as a bust due to his tenure with the Jets. Then he was a backup with the Panthers and Niners, and his comeback really started last season, where he led the Vikings to a 14-2 record and threw for 35 touchdown passes. But after a poor playoff showing, Minnesota chose not to franchise him, and he ended up on the Seahawks for 3 years and $100 million. And I'm going to be honest, I did not think this signing would pan out, but here we are. He's in the Super Bowl. And this sounds really silly to say out loud, but he's got a lot to gain with a Super Bowl victory, because he is one of those quarterbacks who a lot of people view as a system quarterback, not a franchise one. That could change with how well he plays in this game. If he walks away as Super Bowl MVP, he is going to change a whole lot of minds. Other players on these teams worth talking about. For the Patriots, you have corner Christian Gonzalez, who feels like the kind of player who could have a big impact on a game of this magnitude. And for the Seahawks, you have wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba, who was 4th in the NFL with 119 catches this past season. One could argue that this Super Bowl matchup does not have the star power of years past, but these two teams are really talented. And it's also worth saying that these are two teams on the rise. Like, this is not the end of something. In fact, it kind of feels like a beginning for both franchises. We should talk about the head coaches of these respective franchises. On one hand, you have Mike Vrabel, whose tenure with the Tennessee Titans did not end well. He ends up taking over the team he won 3 Super Bowls as a player with, and a team that won just 4 games last season. As a fan of the Patriots, I thought they would make a big jump, but never in my wildest dreams did I think they would be in the Super Bowl. But looking at them, they have the key key ingredients: a franchise caliber quarterback and a tremendous leader as head coach. I know there's a lot of you out there that think the Patriots had an easy schedule. This is football. I never understand talking about the schedule of these teams. They have to beat who they have to beat, and somehow the Patriots are in the Super Bowl, so get over it. It's not the New England Patriots' fault that Josh Allen didn't make it to the AFC title game. That's not on the Patriots. They defeated who they had to defeat to make it to the Super Bowl. Stop talking about schedules when it comes to NFL teams. I don't care about the ease of the schedule. It's about winning the games you have to win. And if they end up winning the Super Bowl, which there's a good chance they're going to, they are going to be viewed as Super Bowl champs, the same as any other Super Bowl champion. As the years go on, nobody remembers the ease of the schedule. No one is going to talk about that. It's okay to talk about in the moment, but to act like it's a big deal overall is a tad ridiculous. The head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, you have Mike McDonald, who has won double-digit games in each of his first 2 seasons with the team. He took over for the best coach in franchise history in Pete Carroll, and as we know, Carroll infamously lost the Super Bowl to the Patriots after he decided to not give the ball to Marshawn Lynch on the goal line, and instead Russell Wilson froze an interception to Malcolm Butler. I'm not just saying this as a fan of the New England Patriots. That is one of the best Super Bowls I have ever seen. That game was epic. Tom Brady was great in that one as well. I think an interesting conversation to have with somebody is, does this year's Super Bowl have the juice? Is this an exciting matchup? I don't know the answer to that. We could end up with a great game. I also don't know how big of an impact star power actually has on the Super Bowl. Would more people watch this year's Super Bowl if it had a Patrick Mahomes type or a Josh Allen or a Joe Burrow? Like, do those types of quarterbacks actually equal ratings? Because I feel like every year they tell us more people are watching the Super Bowl now more than ever. People are obsessed with football. They're going to watch this game no matter what. It's not like this game is going to happen next Sunday and people are going to say this is the lowest rated Super Bowl in 15 years. That has never been the case since I've been alive. We've gotten to a point where it doesn't matter who's in the Super Bowl. It's going to be treated like a huge deal, no matter what the matchup is, no matter if there's a lack of star power. The other sports, the NBA and Major League Baseball, have to deal with this issue. What happens if, during our championship round, the marquee franchises don't make it? The NFL does not have that problem. People are going to tune in. People are going to treat it like it's a huge deal because it's football, the most popular sport in America. It's hard to get a sense of what the consensus is right now, but I do feel like people are rooting more for the Seattle Seahawks because the Patriots just recently had a dynasty. Yes, we went through a rough 4-year stretch post Tom Brady where we were watching the Cam Newtons and the Mac Joneses of the world really struggle, but here we are already with a guy in Drake May who feels like the quarterback for the next 10 years. So nobody is going to feel sorry for us if we lose the Super Bowl. For Sam Darnold and the Seahawks, this could be it. This could be their absolute best chance of winning a Super Bowl. It feels like there's a viewpoint among some football fans that the great teams who haven't been as good this season are going to be back come next year. Like, I think there's a contingency out there that think that the Eagles are going to recover, that the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty is not over yet. I'm not sure I'm fully on board with that, but I understand where they're coming from. Tom Brady had a great second act. Maybe Patrick Mahomes will as well. I can't say that he's not going to win another Super Bowl. I just don't know if he's going to recover as quickly as next season. Remember, Tom Brady went a full decade in the NFL between Super Super Bowls. Maybe what I'm about to say is very biased, but I think what's best for the NFL is for Drake May, no matter if he wins or loses, to put on an absolute show during the Super Bowl, that he emerges from this game as an absolute top 5 quarterback in the league, because that's what the NFL does need, star power at the quarterback position, because you have guys who are moving on. You have some other guys who had down seasons. Lamar Jackson, you don't know if he's ever going to return to form. I think it's best for the NFL that Drake May emerges as a superstar, no doubt about it, franchise quarterback. Now, he hasn't been great in these past 3 postseason games, but he can make up for all of that and then some if he has a real showing on Super Bowl Sunday. I mean, I'm not one of these people, but these kind of pundits exist where they say whoever the quarterback is that wins the Super Bowl is right now the best quarterback in the world. I think those kind of takes are ridiculous, but there will be some people who say that about Drake May if he walks away with a Super Bowl title. The same conversation will not be had for Sam Darnold. No matter how good he plays on Super Bowl Sunday, I think he can change minds. He can get people to be on board with how good he is, but nobody is going to say Sam Darnold is part of the future of the NFL if he wins on Sunday, like they would it for Drake May. Think about the already established quarterbacks who don't have Super Bowl titles. Lamar Jackson has 0 Super Bowls. Josh Allen has 0 Super Bowls. Justin Herbert has 0 Super Bowls. In the eyes of many, Drake May would become better than all 3 of those players if he wins the Super Bowl this upcoming Sunday. Fair or unfair, winning the Super Bowl puts you in a completely different category than other quarterbacks throughout the league. You will all of a sudden be viewed as a winner for the rest of your career. That's how important winning a Super Bowl is at the quarterback position. And I do think it would be a huge deal for him to win the Super Bowl this early in his career, because then he can just relax. Then the dynasty might really be able to start, because he'd already would have won, and as the years go on, he'll gain more and more experience. I mean, there is real pressure on veteran quarterbacks to win Super Bowls. I mean, there's that famous scene of Steve Young saying the monkey's off his back after he finally won a Super Bowl with the 49ers. That thought would not be in Drake May's head if he wins, obviously. I mean, if you really think about it, he's under pressure because he's thought of as the heir apparent to Tom Brady, even though there were 2 quarterbacks after Tom Brady before he entered the conversation. That is something that will always happen with Drake May when he has a great game. If he wins a Super Bowl, well, they'll say, well, Tom Brady has 6. Yes, maybe he'll be judged in that sense, but just to win 1 Super Bowl title his second year in the NFL would be a gigantic deal, and that is a massive understatement. And that gets me to this. Expectations for both of these quarterbacks on Super Bowl Sunday are vastly different. People are expecting Drake May to absolutely ball out on Super Bowl Sunday, and for Sam Darnold to succumb to the pressure of playing in a Super Bowl. People are even mentioning the fact that he's playing the Patriots, the team he once was playing against, and said, "I'm seeing ghost." That version of Sam Darnold is how some people still view him today. They will not view him as a good quarterback until he wins this game. It's unlike Drake May because they already have high expectations for Drake May. They expect him to have a Super Bowl performance of 300 plus passing yards and at least 3 passing touchdowns. And that's quite frankly the most fascinating thing about this Super Bowl matchup is it's hard to gauge which team is under the most pressure to win this game because the vast majority of football fans did not expect either of these teams to make the Super Bowl this season. They've arrived earlier than expected. I would also like to say that I don't view this as a situation where the victory is getting there in the first place. No, I think it's important for either of these teams to take advantage of the fact that they are in the Super Bowl. Just because Drake May has led the Patriots to the Super Bowl does not mean he's going to get back there. Dan Marino led the Dolphins to a Super Bowl appearance in his second year and never got back to the big game. No offense to LeBron James, but this isn't the NBA where a player makes 10 Super Bowl appearances in a row. Football is not that kind of sport. Yes, dynasties can emerge and things can happen and Patrick Mahomes can dominate, but you need to win every Super Bowl you make it to. It is a big deal. I know it's way too early to talk like this, but if Drake May wants to be remembered as one of the best quarterbacks in football, he needs to win the Super Bowl. There are so many great quarterbacks who don't get brought up in the conversation of the all-time greats because they never won a Super Bowl. Drake May has an opportunity to win a Super Bowl in his second season. I'm not saying he would never get back there, but it would be a huge sigh of relief for him to get his Super Bowl title in his second season, and then everything around him would become more relaxed. He would, in an instance, establish himself as a franchise quarterback, and again, in the eyes of many people, he would be viewed as better than Joe Burrow, better than Josh Allen, better than Lamar Jackson. And to repeat, I would not be one of these people, but there would be many who would say coming into next season, Drake May is the best quarterback in the NFL if he wins this Super Bowl. There is a lot for him to gain with a Super Bowl victory. I just don't know if this Super Bowl is going to be as predictable as many people. I just feel like there's this overall idea that Drake May is going to put on a huge showing and that the moment is going to be too big for Sam Darnold. For those people, I would say Sam Darnold is in the Super Bowl. It's one game. He could have a massive game. And even if he wins this game, it doesn't necessarily mean he's better than Drake May. Yes, entering an NFL game, you should always go with the team that has the better quarterback. So because of that, I'm going to go with the Patriots. I'm going to go with Drake May, but you really can't take my word for it because I'm a fan of the New England Patriots and I want the Patriots to win this Super Bowl. But it is a really interesting story for Sam Darnold to be in the Super Bowl in the first place because his success with the Seahawks really does show you that the failures with his tenure with the Jets was really more on that organization than it was on this player. I'm not telling you that Sam Darnold will ever be viewed as a top 10 quarterback, but clearly he's proving he's more than just an average NFL starter, and with the right team, he can have a lot of success. Just how much success, we're going to find out on Sunday. The conversations we're having surrounding these two quarterbacks could change drastically based on the events of this game. Obviously, I think that's the most exciting plot point of this Super Bowl is that you have two quarterbacks who have never played in the Super Bowl. I mean, last year, Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts were two guys who had been to the Super Bowl before, so the moment wasn't too big for either. We just don't know how Drake May is going to handle it, and we don't know how Sam Darnold is going to handle it. Even if you think you know how they are going to, you won't know until Sunday finally happens. Both teams feel like they have a great chance to win because they're not playing a juggernaut who's been there before. Right? Like if this matchup was the Patriots versus the Rams, I would probably side with the Rams because they have Matthew Stafford, a guy who's won the Super Bowl. That's how I would factor it. But now you have two quarterbacks who have never played in the Super Bowl before, one guy who everyone views as a franchise quarterback, and another guy that everyone is surprised and somewhat baffled by. To put it lightly, there were not that many people on board with the Seahawks giving that kind of money to Sam Darnold. But boy, have they been proven right. No matter if you're rooting for the Patriots or the Seahawks, I think we're all rooting for a great football game. We don't want a blowout from either side. I don't want the Patriots to blow out the Seahawks. I want the most entertaining product possible, and I think there's a great chance we're going to get that. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Monday on Apple Podcast and Spotify, so please rate, review, and subscribe.